stepmom, because that's a very major story arc that they totally shit the bed that first go around.
Completely shit the bed.
I mean, you have to have it, right? You have to do it the right way. I mean, they're both blue, and I know that that's kind of like X-Men racism, but it's part of it, right?
Yeah, it's literally
It's a little bit
like mother like son.
Well, because she is a BAMF. She's a badass motherfucker. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into today's episode of Escaping Podcast.
The best podcast in Colorado Springs when it comes to all things geek, nerdy, and everything in between.
And by everything in between, he means the difference between a normal gene and an X gene. Now, that's why they're called the X-Men.
Or what about Madeline prior to that?
Oh, well, Madeline, prior to that, redheads are a constant. As always, I am your host, Daniel Rojas, joined by...
Kills for Show, a.k.a. Ice Spot, a.k.a. Roberto the Coolsto.
Oh, my God. Michelle, a.k.a. No Intro, is not with us this week, but we are joined by a guest from another one of our shows. You've heard him here before.
Hi, Michelle.
And you've heard him on another show, Yo, Where the Captions At. It is...
You know who it is. It's Roscoe Tinkoya. I already got my X-Men name because it's Roscoe Tinkoya.
There it is. So today we are doing a little bit of a filler episode, bridging the gap while we wait for October, the spooky season. You just got done listening to our last series.
Yes, about villains, the baddies.
The bad, and the baddies. This time we're talking about New Mutants, the movie that just came out, as well as Fox's X-Men series. As you know, with this podcast, we started off talking about X-Men, so it only seemed right for a filler episode to bring you here.
Yes, to fill in the gaps.
So before we get to the meat, before we get to the New Mutants, which is the most recent recent installment of the Foxmen, which was supposed to be a Disneyman, but is not. So let's start at the very beginning. Let's start in the year 2000.
In the year 2000.
The far off,
in
not
the
too
year
distant
2000.
future.
Still in the future.
It was the not too distant future before.
Yes, it was.
And we saw the start of what would be a huge series that was good, was bad, and sometimes was not worth mentioning.
Exactly. That's funny that you mentioned that it did start off saying in the near future. It's very comic booky, very Marvel. Never to give you an exact date in the timeline, unless you're Captain America being frozen in the 60s. But other than that, we never actually get a concise date of when these events take place, so they could be loosey-goosey with the timeline and when they fit these in continuity-wise.
And they did that for a good long while in the comics and in the shows until about, I want to say, 2010 or so. And right around then, they're like, okay, well, this is happening during this president's, term.
Exactly.
This is happening while this is happening in the world. But all the while, we were getting movies left and right coming out, starting with 2000's X-Men. Now, that movie,
it didn't age well.
It did not, but when it first came out, it was incredible.
Because we ain't seen shit like it, really. Like, we had superhero movies, but when it came to the X-Men, arguably the most popular comic book of the 90s, still X-Men #1 is the highest selling comic book of all time with like 40 or like 50 million issues. So, yeah. Or it might not have been 40, 50. It might have been like 5 million, 10 million. Anyway, it still holds the Guinness Book of World Record for the most selling comic book of all time. But it just shows you how important that cartoon and that comic book was for a whole generation. So when we actually saw the trailer, like, oh shit, we're actually getting the X-Men on screen. It was like a kid's dream come true.
Of course, and it was around the time, because I want to say it was 1997 or 1998 was
right
when we
they
got
stopped.
Blade.
98.
98 was when we got Blade, and that was technically the first of the Marvel movies in that genre.
Yeah,
it was very leather-clad, dark. Yeah, the lighting was usually darker, and these were heroes for today.
Yeah, it was definitely was the catalyst for this current, or the first renaissance of comic book movies.
Do you think they had a regimen for how they took care of their body for the chafing all that leather did? Or were they wearing like Under Armour so as not to chafe?
I'm going to say no, just because Under Armour I don't think was created.
Yeah, you know what? You got
Or
point,
if it was, it wasn't Under Armour.
Yeah.
But they had to figure some shit out.
And Professor X was probably weird and kinky enough that he's like, let it chafe. Let it chafe.
Most likely, I think they use baby powder.
Yeah. Now take it off slow.
Yeah.
Slower.
I'm going to need to see how you look under that suit.
Yeah.
Just
Because I just oh snap! I have realized they would have been doing a lot of stuff in that leather and not really be sweating. Yes. I'd have been sweating my ass off.
It's probably collecting somewhere in those suits.
And, go ahead, Ross.
Also, what if it's the technology? What if it wasn't really leather? What if it was a leather? What if it was a leather base, but it was cotton and it was breathable? I mean...
Yeah, it could be, but they didn't have a forge. So.
But the thing is, even in that movie, Scott made a joke like, would you want us to wear yellow spandex? You would have more maneuverability in that spandex than you did in those leather outfits because you could barely turn. Like, if you go back and watch those, you didn't have no full range of motion. And being a field leader, the team leader, Cyclops, you need to have your people outfitted in the best material that they can have at that moment so they could get the job done efficiently.
So we're not going to spend too much time dissecting each movie, but there are a couple points we should talk about.
Yes, but the biggest thing too, me being the X-Men fan I am, was like, I couldn't believe the movie was happening. It was like damn near fan casting, getting Patrick Stewart as Professor X. Like, you had my money already with that alone. Yeah, Halle Berry as Storm, one of the most iconic African American female actresses or people in the world as Storm, the most popular and the greatest, to me, the greatest black superhero of all time already, and just seeing it actually come out and just being like, oh my god, fuck yes.
And then you add into that two relatively unknown actors.
Yes.
Anna Paquin.
Yes.
And Hugh Jackman.
Exactly.
And pairing them together, I liked it in the movie. I liked their relationship. I really do. And there's still even that one scene in the very beginning where he's like, or she's like, you should put your seatbelt on. He's like, you shouldn't fucking tell me what to do. And then...
boom! Straight through the windshield.
So we see... I want to talk about X-Men 1 and 2, kind of like as a combined thing. Because those two came out relatively close enough. And then by the time we got X3, it had been just long enough that we were waiting for it.
Yes.
But in the first two, which characters would you have rather seen than the ones we saw? And the character design, the costume design, was there anything that you guys would have changed?
You mean a character for those two movies that we didn't see at all, or who we would like to be in it that maybe eventually came into the
either.
I'm gonna be honest. I would have liked to see more of Toad. He was just only like a minor thing.
Well, you know what happens to a toad that gets struck by lightning.
Yeah, but yet
the same thing that happens to everything else. Wow, gotta love that writing.
But yeah, so what would you have liked to have seen more with Toad?
I just would have liked either him wisecracking.
Right.
Longer scenes, because technically he was only there for like 2 scenes, I want to say.
And that's Ray Park, who played Darth Maul.
Exactly.
He had the chops to do all that stuff.
He has the skills to pay the bills.
It would have been, it was literally a tease for us to be like, guess what? Yeah, we gave y'all Toad. Y'all disappointed at it, so here's how we're going to repay you. We're giving you Nightcrawler in 2.
Right, but...
it's just like, but y'all could have just not really killed Toad and brought him back in 2.
Could you imagine a fight scene between Nightcrawler and Toad in the second one?
It would have been so good.
Right? Oh, Toad bouncing around, Nightcrawler trying to bamf. Although if we're going to talk about Nightcrawler real quick, before we get to the other stuff, not even an honorable mention, but a necessary one, the opening scene in X2 still holds up to me.
Oh, no matter what, it's one of the greatest opening scenes in any movie.
Oh my god.
Any movie of all time.
So then, okay, would you have gone differently with their costumes, Ross?
I'm gonna be honest, not really, because it was still good. It just was just like, right when Wolverine made the point, it's like, why the fuck is we wearing leather? It's just like, yeah, what the oh, well, I never really put 2 to 2 together, but y'all niggas was always wearing leather, fighting all the whole entire time.
Mm-hmm.
See, because most of all the characters I had made some type of appearance on the screen as X-Men throughout the totality of the series.
Of course.
Because I also basically wrote down the same question. But for me, the X-Men that I wanted to see in general that didn't pop up any movies, it definitely would have been Sunfire and Dazzler.
Dazzler did show up in the totality of the movies, but for one scene.
I don't count that same way, like, for villains I put Omega Red, because technically he did pop up in X3 on paper and in the deleted Deadpool scenes.
That's right, he was on a computer screen.
He was they gave the Omega Red name to a character that wasn't Omega Red, but in Deadpool 2, they shot the scene, they just didn't put it in the movie, but an actual character in a movie. Like Dazzler popped up, but that was not Dazzler. Same
Actually,
way, like Jubilee technically has popped up in 3 films, but
thank you.
still
I
that
was
was
gonna
never
redact my
really
joint.
Jubilee. So that's X-Men I would have liked seeing in the beginning. And more of like, and also just talking about like the traditional 5. I definitely want, because the only ones we were missing was Angel and Beast in the first 2, but ironically we got them in the third. And as far as costumes go, I was just like, I was fine with the leather, but they could have added more color as accents, or they should have just went with Grant Morrison style, like just the X jackets. If you didn't want to be in spandex, and they're supposed to be teachers and students and staff and faculty, you could have went in that lane with the costumes.
Well, and with that, they tried to give them those X jackets in the Dark Phoenix movie, the most recent one.
Too little, too late.
It was too little, too late. Yes, of course. But with the first 2 movies, I'd say some characters that they could have done better. Obviously, Angel, because Angel's a founding member. You know, keep him there. Have him flying around the campus even. 2, another character that should have been introduced, in my opinion, much sooner would have been Juggernaut. So that way you can get the relationship between him and Charles as half-brothers.
Yes.
Yes.
Or at least in a flashback, so when he did pop up, be like, that's the dude. And then you always had that reference, especially if you would have brought Beast in early, have him being a teacher there, maybe not on the field, then you could have banter with him and Angel, be like, why am I keep giving you all this money just for you to create these things and blow up? Or something like, always just blow up my money, Hank, since I got here. Like, well, that's what you're here for.
But I can't say,
besides your good looks, we need that wallet.
But I will say though, Angel scene in 3 wasn't that bad. Like
it wasn't.
It was just there.
But they didn't use him any
They didn't really use him a lot. But I will say, just his introduction scene in 3, I personally did like how they did.
Oh yeah,
that's
iconic when his wings pop out and he's there.
Yeah.
Oh,
seeing how he was a kid and he want to be a freak, he was trying to cut off his wings.
That was so sad. So okay, so you have X-Men. You have X-Men 2. And out of those 2 movies, my question is, if they weren't just Wolverine-centric, what other stories would you have told at the beginning? Knowing that it is early 2000s. And, well, we did have costumes that look better in other Fox movies, i.e. Fantastic Four, where it was much more comic accurate.
You could have went with the Morlocks in any way, shape, or form early. Take them underground in the sewer. Have that happen. That might have been a better sequel. Or you just could have focused on like Friends Against Humanity or Friends for Humanity, like in the cartoon, and just a mob. Like bringing in a young mutant, teaching her how to use her powers while still protecting her and the others from a world that hates and fears them.
I'm gonna be honest, even though it was too little too late, they should have introduced the Sentinels for us.
Right, and not just as a training simulation in the third one.
So stupid.
I mean, because I remember
because they teased it to us so much, and only for us to be like, "Oh, you're only getting this for 5 minutes," and guess what? It's a simulator.
And you know what? Yeah, that would have been a great story for maybe the second movie. Now, I do like what they did with the second movie because the action scenes were great.
Yes.
That moment with Bobby, Pyro, Rogue, and Wolverine at Bobby's house.
Yes.
Man.
And Pyro's just blasting things left and right. And then the shot to Wolverine's forehead. Bing! Holy shit.
For real.
And the one thing, too, that I kind of do like about 2 as well is just the fact that Pyro was still at the school. And then he's just like,
That's
I don't want to be here. The Brotherhood is right.
That's right.
I'm following Magneto. I'm out this piece.
Well, and Magneto tells him at one point, "You're a god among ants. Let no one tell you otherwise."
And that's the great thing.
Here's your fire back.
Here's your fire back.
The 2 best things. Don't call me by my slave name. I'm not going to lie. Just hearing that part in the movie theaters, me and Kelsey gasped so much. And it was just like, oh, yes. Their slave names are their real names. They love being called by their code names, which is the names they gave themselves. It was so good. And then the fact
to represent who they really are.
So then, okay, last question for the first 2. What are some things that you genuinely liked about the first 2 movies?
Well, of course, the first 2 already goes without saying. Nightcrawler.
Oh, absolutely.
He came in fresh, refreshing, one of the more comic accurate characters in the series. And also, well, of course, Patrick Stewart as Professor X. and the design of Cerebro, because that is still the way it's modeled in comics.
Yes.
Today.
God, it's fantastic.
It's iconic.
Yes.
It's iconic as hell.
And I would like to add one thing that just for me being a person that loves the dynamic, the loyalty that Mystique has for Magneto.
It's
is
unwavering.
So great.
Until when we get to the third movie.
Where she's like,
And even-
but just with the way that they showed it in two, like she should have turned on him, but she didn't. And what happened? He saved her first, set her free, and they said, "Let's go get everybody else."
So I'd like to take this next minute to talk about the third movie. And I know I was bunching them in two, but the third movie I got to talk about before we talk about the next ones. Because X-Men 3 was long awaited. The problem I think that they ran into, and you guys can, dispute it, say, I'm right or wrong. They forced the Dark Phoenix stuff far too fast.
That's always gonna be accurate. Mm-hmm. And as soon as that shit happened towards the end of the movie, when I saw her start turning the fire, I literally was in the theater like, no, don't. Why?
When the water was...
Yeah, like, why are you doing it? Like, no, don't. No, what? No, not the... That's a whole... You can't even bring the shit... Don't do it. I still to this day, I don't know.
A lot of mistakes were made there.
Yeah.
A lot of mistakes, including the size of Juggernaut. The fact that Jamie Madrox was another throwaway character.
Yes.
You can't throw Jamie like that.
Right.
He is... What are you doing?
Multiple man, baby.
For real, it's like that Juggernaut shit too. Like, I didn't even have a problem with him being a mutant because I get it. Make changes easy to digest in a world with mutants. Everybody mutants. And you start bringing magic, I'm fine with it. But like you said the size. Like, no, Juggernaut is a towering behemoth.
Yep.
He's not just a swole dude.
And why'd y'all try to jam 3 stories in one movie and each act is a different story, but yet y'all couldn't tie them in right?
Because
what is wrong?
Because that's from a time, and you guys may remember, I'm sure you do, it was a time where movies were only allowed 3. You could have one movie and you could have a sequel, but if you did a third one, that's your trilogy and that's it.
That's a wrap. It's
kaput. Yeah, before we realized it didn't have to be that way.
Exactly.
Star Wars, the current MCU, John Wick, which is probably going to keep going on.
Hell yeah, like somebody had to break the mold. And it wasn't like the 80s where we're like, oh, we'll make 80 critters.
or run Superman into the ground where it is Superman's the search for peace?
Search for peace. Or even with Jason.
Guess what? We running Jason so much.
Muppets.
We running Jason so far in the ground, he going into outer space.
Okay, yeah, but X-Men meets Muppets, that is a movie that I would pick.
Oh yeah, I definitely. Mutants and Muppets. Like,
now that they're both Disney, you know what? I'm in.
I'm like, I know what it's like to be different. You get Cookie Monster and Beast, but he's trying to. They talk to each other about how to get cookies and chocolate out there first.
Wrong people, sir. That's Cookie Monster says.
Sesame Street was still technically part of the Muppets.
Yeah,
they crossed over a bunch.
Yeah.
Sesame Street was supposed to be more educational, where Muppets were supposed to be mellow.
But Sesame Street's not owned by HBO though.
No, it's not.
It's partnered with HBO.
Yeah. So
contracts.
Okay.
With the third movie, pros and cons. Quick fire before we get to the next one. Pros and cons, Roscoe.
Everything.
And everything. Everything.
Pros. The only real pro. Well, the most major pro of X3 is Kelsey Grammer as Beast.
Yes.
Perfect. The second pro would be Ellen Page as Kitty.
Yes.
I love that. And cons, the rest of the movie. And once again,
I'll give another pro for the whole relationship with Kitty and Bobby.
I wish we would have got that from jump, but then again, the disrespect of that nigga Cyclops. You gonna kill the leader? That's like killing Leonardo at the beginning of a Ninja Turtle film, and Raphael just lead the whole squad.
Scott.
I'm like, what did y'all do? Y'all really killed? I was like, nah, he gonna come back. He gonna come. Oh shit, you gonna kill Cyclops?
And then you hear Logan.
Like, we get it, Wolverine's the guy, but literally kill off Scott and made the whole romance about Jean and Wolverine, the woman he was never gonna actually get. But I gotta stop talking about
For me, pros, it was the first time me and my uncle went to go see a movie together. Hadn't seen him in years, so that was fun as the experience. Also, the first time I had my first movie theater hot dog and decided, I don't even care if he's been in the back for, weeks. This is delicious. Throw some mustard on that. Another pro, I would say the fight outside of Jean Grey's house.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. It was decent.
Cons, you took away Nightcrawler.
Also, that was another contract thing. He wanted more money.
Yes, he did.
To come back and screen time. But
he pulled an Edward Norton?
Yeah, he put an Edward Norton and Terrence Howard before either.
Pros. Halle Berry's, her pixie cut.
Wait, she did look good in that.
She looked good in that pixie cut.
She did redeem herself technically after the debacle of Catwoman.
Con, it was another Wolverine story.
Exactly. Another tidbit. But all right. More I talk about this, but when she killed Charles, though, I ain't gonna lie, nigga. She blew up Charles. Like, y'all, why y'all hurting me? Why y'all hurting me?
And when
like
he looks
that?
at Wolverine and smiles.
Yeah.
But
before we go to
we can go on to this. But then came the next series, and this was one that no one really asked for, but seemed to be in theme. We had 3 X-Men movies that were secret Wolverine movies, but then we got 3 Wolverine movies that were just bad.
No.
I'm gonna be honest.
2 were bad. One was a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Okay, go into that because you and which titles are those?
Okay, because I actually have my X-Men movies ranked from 1
We'll get to that
to
at the end.
13. But the first one, of course, is Origin.
X-Men Origins.
Wolverine, which was supposed to be the start of Origin films. There was supposed to be a Magneto one that low-key got turned into First Class. There was supposed to be a Professor X Origins film. I believe Gambit had one.
Gambit had one lined up from the beginning, and then they kept changing everything.
Exactly. But then, like I said, there was supposed to be a series of origin films. After that was The Wolverine, and they copped out the Samurai, turning him to maybe our first Sentinel in the movie franchise that we actually see. Combat suit.
So then what would be the third Wolverine origin?
Logan.
Not an origin, though.
But no, I'm saying it's not.
So
origin.
I guess that's Miami speaking.
Yeah.
There was 2 Wolverine origin movies.
Well, there was 2. Oh.
I thought there was another one.
No, it was just Wolverine or X-Men's Origins Wolverine, then just the Wolverine. So there was 2 Wolverine movies. Then we had Logan.
And I will say the Wolverine had some cool scenes.
Yes.
As opposed to X-Men Origins Wolverine, which was hot garbage.
Hot mess, booty water.
And you're gonna do the whole Blob gets his name Blob because he called him Bub and he misheard him.
Wait, is that how they explain that? Oh yeah, he's like, don't call me Blob. I said, but
did you just call me Blob?
Damn, that was messy.
Oh,
but
so
only
fucking
good.
bad.
But Liv Schreiber as Sabretooth
was the only redeeming factor.
Even though they didn't make him look like it aesthetically, he still played that character to a T.
Yes.
And on the only other good thing too, which would redeem us in future sequences, is they casted the right person to play Deadpool, even though they made Deadpool wrong.
Well, here's the thing: they did the beginning Wade Wilson correct.
Yes.
And that was fantastic.
Yes.
And then
they shit the bed on.
They shit the bed.
They told him to shut the fuck up.
They sewed
and
his
shoot
mouth
laser
shut.
eyes.
The length of the adamantium swords does not make sense.
And
why give him laser eyes?
Why give him teleportation like that?
Why give him laser eyes?
And backtrack, I'm about to say this was the first time we saw that de-aging technology when Charles popped at the end. But,
that was so fucking weird.
Was Wolverine Origins pre X3 or post? Because in X3 they did the de-aging too in the beginning.
It was post X3.
So we have to thank Fox in some regards for doing that shit first before the MCU. Even though it wasn't bad, they still leaked.
It's still,
they just looked too round.
It was too round, too smooth.
It was too baby smooth.
It was too baby smooth.
Yeah, but they did it first. They tried, and it's been perfected now.
The opening scene of the Wolverine, I enjoyed for the fact that you can see him all busted up after the bomb went off.
Oh yeah, that was
I like
dope.
that because it's like cool.
Bruh,
Show me more Wolverine having to stitch back together.
And then the nice little Easter egg in the little action scene with him at World War II with Cap, and I was like, And then there was one other scene from The Wolverine that I very much enjoyed, and the rest of the movie I didn't really give a shit about. But they were firing a bunch of like harpoons in him, and he just keeps going, and it's that whole Wolverine drive. But then the rest of the movie was like, okay, but we kind of stopped writing. And we kind of let the actors do whatever they want, and here we go.
And then also the opening battle sequence in Wolverine Origins when him and Sabretooth was going through time and wars. That was dope. And they did change Sabretooth origin in there to make them brothers, but I wasn't mad at it because in the comic book they alluded like they were related for all these years. So for them to do the movie thing is like the easiest route to go. It makes sense, so I wasn't tripping about it too much. So.
There was one last thing that was good about the Wolverine. and it was the post-credit scene. Because he's making his way through the airport terminal, and he sees what's set up for Days of Future Past.
Yes.
And that's with the Sentinels, and he can't make his way through the metal detector, but then behind him it stops. And Charles and Magneto are like, you need to come with us right now.
We got some shit to do.
So before we got the Wolverine, we had another movie that set off a different series, a different timeline almost.
Yes.
And what movie was that, Ross?
X-Men First Class?
X-Men First Class.
Which was, comic book wise, it was not the First Class,
No, it was
but
not.
they created their own first class of mutants at the Charles Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. And that movie was so refreshing. It had I'm not saying a relatively unknown cast, but a lot of them were still up and coming.
Right.
And the fact that Fox took the risk of going that route, it paid off for him.
Michael Fassbender as Magneto was incredible. When he goes to Argentina and he's in that bar with those two Nazis,
Yeah.
Oh my God. He goes, what's your name? My parents didn't have a name. Their name was taken from them by pig farmers.
Oh man, then
and soldiers.
and once again they modeled up an origin of another villain because Sebastian Shaw wasn't like that, and he wasn't. Basically, they combined Sebastian Shaw with elements of Mr. Sinister, but for the movie and how it connected to Magneto's origin in the film.
Oh my God.
Fan-fucking-tastic. You
So
couldn't do it any better.
Well, and the fact that, you can put a little sizzle on it when you bring the bacon and give Kevin Bacon that much of a good villain role where he's charming, but you still want to kill him.
Yeah, and they really didn't do the best job explaining his abilities, but
No.
fuck it.
But
it
then
worked out.
they also messed up because they had Emma Frost there, but then in X-Men Origins Wolverine, she was there as a kid,
And she was even in...
Oh my God, there was a young Scott Summers in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
There was
Yeah.
a lot of them.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Storm was in a cage? Holy shit.
Quicksilver,
Oh my God.
he was in the cage too,
You're
little speedy,
right.
like...
Ugh,
Yeah, there was a lot of mutants that was in that movie, but they just pooped on their continuity again. But even Emma Frost, like, she looked like Emma Frost, but
Oh, yes.
They
Who was
didn't give-
Holiday Jones?
yeah, but they didn't get... Or was it January Jones?
January Jones.
Yeah,
I knew it was something
yeah.
like that. Yeah, it was a month or
But they didn't give her anything
Groundhog
to do.
Day Jones.
Exactly, like, she's one of the world's most powerful telepaths, but you just literally make her eye candy, which she kind of is. Well, she is.
But
at the
she's
same
also
time,
so powerful.
she's her own bitch as well. Straight up.
They did a lot of cool stuff where they introduced Azazel, who fucked Mystique, and that's where later on they do introduce Nightcrawler.
Exactly. So when he does pop up, like when he did pop up in X-Men First Class, it's going like, oh shit, they might go back and fix this and let it
It's
be known.
not Will.i.am anymore.
Exactly. That this is gonna be Nightcrawler's daddy, so we don't have to have a scene with Mystique and him
Which
get
is
together
comic
somewhere.
accurate.
Exactly, but it doesn't because she's in love with Eric.
But it does show up, and one of the things was they do allude to it later on that her and Azazel had an entanglement, and that's where Kurt comes from. That's why she looks young, because she can change.
Exactly, but at the same time, if you don't wink at it when you just could address it and make it a thing.
Well, and I loved it because you do also get into the character of Hank McCoy, who just wants to cure himself.
But that's the thing too, because Hank. That's why I like Kelsey Grammer's Beast, because he was already past all that bullshit.
Yes, this was young Hank though.
Yes, he was like, nah, I'm a mutant.
My feet look weird.
And even when Leech, he went up to touch Leech, was another character they messed up because I'm not gonna get into that. But he went to touch Leech, and he was like, "Oh shit, you're reversing." Nope.
Yeah,
I've
he
been
pulls
there.
back.
I've been there. Nah.
And you
this
can
is
see
what
that
I'm-
in that one.
Yeah.
He's in his eyes where he's like, I could.
It'd be so easier being been there, done that. But like you said, we got young Beast, Hank McCoy, played by Nicholas Hoult.
Yes.
And he's going through the whole dilemma of like, I'm a mutant, but I want to be accepted by humans. Let me find a way to cure myself or some shit like that, or just coming to grasp with his own mutantness. And that whole thing with him and Mystique, like, nah, you should be proud of who you are.
Mutant and proud.
Mutant and proud.
Which I do like at the beginning of First Class where you have Charles talking to the girl and her eyes are different colors and he's like, oh, you're a mutant. That's a mutation. Oh, girl, why don't you come over here and check out my X genes?
For real.
I don't know why that's James McAvoy's voice in my head.
But then he does it all the time. He's just like, that's just mutation, right?
And then you got Mystique who changes one eye and she goes, oh my god, am I a mutant now?
Mystique, I remember I used to feed tea and crumpets in the corner. I kept you my little mutie secret.
Can you be my little meaty secret, sis?
Kept me like your pet, Charles. See, that's the reason she mad about the X-Men shit. It was anything else.
It was that childhood bullshit that Charles put her through.
And that's another thing too.
I do like the fact that they did make them brothers, like technically siblings. And
It gave her enough animosity towards him.
Yeah, it made it more reasonable. I'm like, fuck you, Charles. That's why I'm running with Eric. This nigga's like.
And then when Eric goes, show me that real Mystique.
For real.
No. Show me that real Mystique.
But at the same time, too, that's also stems from Jennifer Lawrence. No, I'll take that back. She wasn't Jennifer Lawrence yet, but just them just finding a way to put Mystique in the film when she didn't need to be that. She could have been Emma Frost. She could have been a Polaris. She could have been... There was other female villains they could have had besides Mystique, but I guess she's the most iconic one that could have went over to Magneto and still kept it.
Now, other characters that had a great role that shouldn't have been written off as quickly as they were. Banshee.
Yes. I couldn't wait to see more of Banshee.
When he was there and he's like doing the fish shit and he's there and his whole character, I loved it. And then we never hear about Banshee ever again.
Because he get killed off screen.
Darwin, who tried to save everyone in First Class. And I thought that was so smooth. I was like, he can turn into anything. I mean, when you see his body changing as he's trying to absorb it. And one of them kind of looks like the Thing from Fantastic Four, then kind of Colossus, then,
Yeah, but then, of course, the first X-Men to die was the brother, just like with Thunderbird. They would kill the minority mutant first.
Oh, yeah, we gotta look good for the screen, baby.
I'm like, yo. And then even the scene with them all talking together, like, oh, Richard, like, your name is Professor X, because you're a professor, your first name is Xavier. Like, he's Banshee, I'm Mystique.
Also, this one over here called Fuckface, we don't know why, he don't have a power, he just showed up, he's been delivering the food.
It's not a click. It's a tumor.
It's a tumor. I always love when people get a bunch of code names, right? And it's all cool and it's like, you are the Dream Whiz. Oh, you are the Nightwalker. And this is the Argentinian.
Wait, what?
What the fuck? Hold on.
I didn't even pick that. Wait, what? I didn't even okay none of this.
Like, I'm just from the Argentine. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, this is the Dutch man. What? How come you guys get names like Proton and, Cannonball, and I'm over here as Dave?
Why can't I be like, Power Grid? Because I fuck with this. Like, nah, you're the Swede.
Oh, guess what? We needed Summers in First Class.
Oh, we always have to have Summers.
And since we can't give y'all Scott because we're going to tell y'all that he's a little kid, guess what we're going to do? Give you a
little bit of...
Let's change what most of us 90 kids grew up as Scott being the older brother and then having a younger brother named Alex, to now being, my name is Alex, my little brother is in a coma and can't see and might be blind, and I can't visit him, but I know he's in the hospital. But Charles Xavier adopted me. Now I have to go to this school. I'm not gonna ask about him no more, because guess what? I'm a mutant.
He goes, my little brother's hurt. He's in a coma. He can't see and he loves redheads. I guess it's time for me to bring a little bit of havoc.
I'm just like, bro, no, don't do that. Like, you messing up the timeline. You could have had any other character lead the squad. There's so many X-Men you could have pulled.
My parents died in a plane crash. Like, okay.
And just so we could make it even more continuity, we're gonna give y'all an Easter egg of a young Scott fucking up a school.
Of course, you have to have, but at the same time, they could have went route of having Vulcan. If you're gonna mix
Vulcan
it up,
would have been a great
and have him die off. So like, man, I did your brother wrong. Now let me go find Scott. Then you could have played up the whole dynamic just by.
And then Scott could have been like, "What's up with my brother that's in a coma?"
Now, here's how I know that we've spent too much time on this movie, because it's a good movie. Because I like this one a lot. Like, that's why we can tear it apart.
I'm not gonna lie. I was a Havoc fan, so just the pure fact that they was giving us Havoc, but then I'm just like, so y'all just gonna switch it up just for us like y'all did the last X-Men TV show y'all gave us?
Well,
all right, whatever.
And the fact that this was not a Wolverine movie, and they made that clear in that one scene.
Yes.
Leave me the fuck alone. All right, we out.
Yeah. Fuck off. I'll say the same thing you told me. fuck off.
For real. And then they didn't even keep having powers the same like the comic book. They gave him chest lasers.
They gave him chest lasers. So we have First Class. Then after that, we get another movie that seems to bridge the gap between the older X-Men movies that we talked about from the early 2000s and onward, and this new generation that they could easily continue the stories with. What movie was that, Kelsey?
That was X-Men Days of Future Past.
One of the most iconic comic book 2-part series, even though it wasn't very good, and I'll be honest. It's iconic. Wolverine, Kitty Pryde behind him. Behind them, a whole poster.
Exactly.
Dead, missing, dead, MIA. Slain.
Not just dead, slain.
Yeah.
Like, yo. And like you said, the comic book itself wasn't good, but the impact was the most important thing about it. That what makes it iconic, the way they shifted the landscape with this and showed the future for mutants. Not only mutants, but humanity also. Because once a machine says fuck the mutants, and in order to stop the mutants, we have to stop where they come from. Oh, guess where they come from? Humans, because the humans are too stupid to acknowledge that shit and respect them like other humans. But the machines are logical, so they don't have that fucking ego in them. And also, in the comic book, you show Rachel Summers, Franklin Richards, two kids leaders of both respective squads, Jean Grey, Cyclops, and the X-Men, Mr. Fantastic, and the Invisible Woman from Fantastic Four, and they have a kid in that future, Hyperstorm, which is super powerful, but I digress. But
in the movie,
yeah,
they changed some things.
Yeah, they changed quite a bit.
In the comic book, Kitty Pryde is the one who's sent back. Yes. And she's the one in her younger body trying to stop Mystique and the Brotherhood from assassinating this senator. In the movie, played by... Was it Bolivar Trask in the comic book too? I believe so. It might have been. But yeah. Bolivar Trask in the movie is played by Peter Dinklage.
The boy Tyrion.
The Dinkles.
He drinks and he knows how to build mutant-hating killer robots.
Man, that just might be a toaster that electrocutes you. We don't know. We can't know. We're not. Yo. That's not for us. That's for the Angels or the Worthingtons, if you will.
Why didn't they get him to play Puck?
He's not intimidating enough.
But still, he's
Danny
small.
DeVito is Puck.
But he's rounder. But
Pucks are round.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like.
So, Days of Future Past changed it where Kitty was the one sending Wolverine in the past with a whole new mutant power. Maybe it's because she can phase through stuff. Now her power is, mutated to a point where she can phase through time.
And they didn't even try to explain that.
They never even explained. They said, guess what?
We didn't get that. This is happening.
Go into the past and save us.
Right? We got a couple glimpses of other mutants, though. Omar Epps played Bishop.
No, you're racist. That was not Omar Epps. It was not Omar Epps.
Was it not?
It was not. It was a British actor.
Oh, no.
Yeah, like, don't worry about it. But it wasn't Mekhi Phifer either. But no, it was not Omar Epps. I get it. It was dark in the future.
All these years, I thought that was Omar playing him.
Nah, it was
Are you sure?
100%.
Okay, well, let me just go ahead and skip over that and say we saw Sunspot for a second.
Yes. We did.
There were a couple other out there. Warpath was there for a minute.
Warpath was there.
A hot minute, and it pissed me off because I wanted to see more of that motherfucker.
And Blink.
Blink was
so good.
Give me Blink in everything.
Just like in Gifted. We got Warpath.
Or give me an Exile series.
I'm being honest.
Blink.
They redeemed us by giving us Blink and Gifted in...
and we'll get to the TV series here in a minute, but Days of Future Past changed some stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
And while staying iconic to a few scenes.
Yes.
Exactly. The thing, too, about the whole movie was for them to go back and course correct and consolidate their timeline because it's been a hot-ass mess throughout all the movies because, like, just listen to us right now if you haven't seen them all or seen some of them. Different characters pop up here or there, different ages, not sounding like it's just a hot mess. But if Days of Future Past was supposed to make everything streamlined, which it still ended up not happening. It's like you had one job to do and you still broke it.
We had a beautiful vision of the future at the end where the Institute was going. Everything was saved. The world was as it should be for the X-Men as we know them, as we've grown up with them. But then we get another part where you see how even the best laid plans, even the futures that we're supposed to go towards, can be derailed by writers and directors. Mm-hmm. Next in the series was X-Men Apocalypse. Roscoe, what was your first impression of X-Men Apocalypse? Oh, wait, sorry. Gotta go back. Quicksilver's scene in Days of Future Past.
How could we forget?
If I could trap time in a bottle.
Yo.
It was so
iconic.
And what makes something so great at this time period is before this movie came out, we got the announcement that we were getting Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver in motherfucking Age of Ultron.
Yep.
So everybody's like, oh shit, we about to get mutants. Just for like a week later, Fox announced Wanda and Quicksilver coming to Days of Future Past. So it's like
with old buddy from American Horror Story.
So it's just like, wait. So they both got the rights? Yes. Only for us to just be like, all right, so they made this Marvel made this slide move to get them, but Fox was like, oh, fuck all that.
No, it was a wiggle room because Quicksilver and Wanda have both been mutants and non-mutants.
Which we've talked about many times on
and
the show.
both been Avengers. But prior to Age of Ultron, anytime you seen them portrayed in anything from a video game or a cartoon, there always been mutants and Magneto's kids. But the wiggle room was that they could be Wanda and Pietro in Marvel, but they could only be Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in the X-Men version. They couldn't use those names. So that's how they found their way to separate the two.
Now, and I'll say for me, I want Quicksilver from Days of Future Past and Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix. That's the one who I want. I want Scarlet Witch from the MCU.
Yes.
That's the combination. And if they're going to fuck up the multiverse,
yeah.
keep Evan Peters, please. Because his attitude.
I don't care if y'all make Pietro a little brother.
Doesn't matter. Make them twins. You can still do it. He's old enough.
Well,
you can do it.
Better yet, just say that Pietro never really died.
What if she meets this version of him?
Now, my thing would be if you gave us X-Men's Quicksilver, but with Aaron Johnson's portrayal as Quicksilver, because he has to be the overprotective brother to Scarlet Witch. That makes their dynamic there. He can't come in and be like, oh, whatever. Like, no, Quicksilver's the dick. He's the Namor without Namor. He has to have like that type of attitude. Like, oh, you guys are fucking stupid. You didn't see that coming, old man. Like, you have to have that dynamic with them too. That what makes them. So I'm still down with Evan Peters, but he has to act like Quicksilver.
Okay.
Yes.
Or like they could do, like you said, have her break her sanity, bring in Evan Peters with this whole supposedly rumored of her being in the multi-universe with Doctor Strange, and that's how y'all bring Vision and Pietro to us, and just say fuck it.
We're getting somewhere towards the end here, but Apocalypse.
I was surprised that they actually casted Olivia Munn because she was campaigning since way before they even decided to even do this whole rebranding.
The fan art alone was amazing.
Exactly, and that's one thing too about Fox. Sometimes they get the fan casting right, like Kelsey Grammer's Beast, Patrick Stewart as Professor X, Halle Berry, Storm. Like some of this shit they do, they get it spot on, and Olivia Munn was one of them. Unfortunately, the movie didn't give Sala any justice or allow Olivia Munn to show her full range of acting abilities.
Right.
Yes.
I did like to see Nightcrawler introduced, and I did like to see Young Angel get those fucking wings.
Yes.
Those wings, baby.
Even if it wasn't.
And Storm. The introduction of a street urchin Storm, I'm about.
Yes, and I'm not gonna lie, she actually portrayed Storm. It could be a good debatable that like her Storm was good enough that like when they gave us like she could have been up there for the Halle Berry Storm.
Right. Well, so I enjoyed it. I'll be honest. There was a lot of things I did not like about Apocalypse, but I still enjoyed it. It's the
enjoyable.
Age of Ultron.
Yeah, it's the Age of Ultron, like the X-Men films, but at the same time, or the new three, but at the same time, there's dope scenes like when the X-Men are fighting Apocalypse Sword and they team working. That's what the X-Men about, and that's what they've been missing in movies, like teamwork. Like have them bounce off, have people use their abilities together.
Have Quicksilver acknowledge his dad is Magneto.
I might want to talk about that.
And I'm gonna be honest, what was so also good too is the fact that they casted a good person to play Apocalypse because he literally every time he spoke, it was convincing when he convinced everybody to join him.
Well, here's the thing: his acting was good. They could have done the costume better.
They could have did the costume better, but
his words
were so great that you was like, man, fuck the costume. Y'all got the person to act right. And it's one of the things
too. Is like, how do you defeat Apocalypse? Oh shit, the Phoenix again.
And that's the thing, right? Here's where we get put back into the corner. Here's where we had a whole world of ways you could do this. And we saw Professor X, he's finally fully crippled.
Yes.
And it's happening, and that's great because that needs to happen. But you put yourself back in a corner where you're like, okay, this next movie might be the last one we get to do. What do we do? Well, what did we mess up last time? Dark Phoenix. Should we stay away from it? Hell no. And that's them blasting rails. And they're like, let's do it. We can do it better. And they give her almost the exact same costume. And yet they take away the origin where she had the Phoenix Force in her at the end of Apocalypse, and then doesn't have it at the beginning of Dark Phoenix, but gets it from outer space. What are you doing, baby girl? What is you doing?
I'm like, if you ain't gonna do it right, don't do it at all. And another thing too about that shit was just like, then they gave us the teaser at the end with them in quote unquote comic accurate costumes.
Mystique had the blue and the white. And Scott had the blue and the gold. Nightcrawler had the red and the blue, and Jean had the blue and the gold as well. Like
and Storm also had her cape and all that shit. And they even low key start trying to play like that 90s music.
Quicksilver had his fucking shit too.
You see the Sentinel come out the shadow like, oh, cut. And guess what happens? They give us fucking Dark Phoenix with no costumes, you bum bitches.
And you know what that was though, right?
Ain't come out nigga have it in like the first 10 minutes.
But you know what that was though, because it came out afterwards, and I'm just gonna say it. Because this is the Age of Ultron of those movies, what happened at the end of Age of Ultron?
Yo.
Avengers!
Yep, they did.
And this one, they're like, X-Men?
X-Men.
Exercise. So,
I must confess I haven't watched it.
You don't need to. There were 3 cool fight scenes, but the plot doesn't make sense because they had to rewrite it so many fucking times. Yeah. The acting at some points is subpar. Nightcrawler fighting, amazing. Storm doing her shit, fantastic. Michael Fassbender, amazing. James McAvoy, fantastic. But the chemistry between Scott and Jean, don't believe it. Don't even care about it. Don't want it. Dazzler, should have given her more. Where the fuck is Jubilee?
She was there.
Oh, yeah.
No, she wasn't there.
She was in the background, maybe.
Like they always do.
Oh, no, yeah, she was there. That was when it was in the 90s. Mm-hmm. The whole bit about her doing like, hey guys, welcome to the Charles Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters.
That's it.
I'm Jubilee. I'm your guy. 90s shit. Because they have that deleted scene.
So you take young actors and you put them in this thing and you don't write a good story because you don't know where to take it. But then you take young actors and you put them in a story that's actually really good but takes too long to release.
Yes.
And you have yourself the New Mutants.
Bow chicka wow wow. Bow bow. The New Mutants, baby. Bow bow bow. New Mutants, y'all.
We're New Mutants and we're here to say, don't mess around because we came to play.
I'll allow it.
So, we went and saw New Mutants. And I'm not going to give too much away. I don't want to get too much into the storyline because you need to see it. But let's talk about the pros of this.
The pros, for the most part, the characters did feel like their comic book counterparts with what they were given. Some people shine more than others.
Sam Guthrie
definitely could have used, I think, more time.
A little more panache.
Yeah, to show his personality more than others, other than just being the Southern boy.
Right.
Exactly. But I did like the friendship camaraderie between him and Roberto.
Him and Roberto felt like an actual bromance.
Yeah.
It was nice.
That felt real.
Ileana stole the show.
Yes.
Her and Lockheed were the best characters, hands down.
And I had to re-educate myself about their relationship too, as well. But then
would you go ahead and give a little bit about that? Because when people who listen to this, I'm assuming our listeners know Lockheed with the X-Men more closely related to Kitty Pryde.
Yeah, Kitty Pryde, which I thought that was always the case, but because the comic book came out in early 80s, late 70s, New Mutants.
New Mutants.
So Ileana had Lockheed because she's a dragon from the actual dimension of Limbo. But then he get recalled to being a space alien too.
Yes, he did.
So she had, that's kind of like Linus and his security blanket. She always had this doll with him, but when you go to Limbo, he is actually a real live little purple adorable ass dragon.
That will be a spoiler. Retroactive spoiler alert. When you see live Lockheed, we screamed.
Who goes harder, live action Lockheed or live action Lockjaw?
Lockheed every day.
Okay, word. Yeah, he is more adorable, but or no offense to Lockjaw.
No, but wait for
it.
Lockjaw was done wrong. He was done dirty. All the Inhumans were done dirty.
Yeah, no, but he was the best one.
He was the best thing in Inhumans.
They spent all the budget.
Yeah, him and Nova were the two best things.
Nova.
I mean, not Nova, but the sister.
Crystal?
Crystal, yeah.
Crystal was good.
Crystal was done good.
Here's the thing. Lockjaw is great, yes. But he wasn't as great as... He was great compared to garbage acting and garbage characters. Lockjaw is great. Or Lockheed is great compared to good actors and good writing.
True. The dog couldn't save that show.
No.
Wish he could have teleported my time back to me.
One of the things that you will find out, and I will say this has to be... I mean, do we talk about the doctor's superior?
What?
The doctor of the institution where these young mutants find them.
That's one thing I have a problem with. Cecilia Reyes is a Puerto Rican. She should have been black shorty, or at least an Afro-Latina. That was my biggest grab. Because I came into comic books when she first was introduced in the X-Men comics in the late 90s.
Sure.
So they could have used any character for that role. Like, it's just another namesake. Like, oh, see, she was actually in that. But I would rather talk about two of the other X films.
The relationship to the other X films?
Oh, no, the other two X films we didn't talk about in the X universe.
Are you talking about the Deadpool movies?
Yes.
Before we get to that, last thing about New Mutants then, because y'all need to see it, and we're really running close on being out of time. So we'll knock those out real quick. Actually, let's save that for our next filler episode. Let's do a deep dive into those two.
In those two words.
Yeah.
All right.
So then,
problem solved. But
New Mutants, I will say two other mutants in there, Danny and Rain. Holy shit!
I didn't need it, but I wasn't mad at it.
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
It is what it is. Like,
Also,
I get it.
Arya Stark. Why can't I think of her actual name?
Because it's Arya Stark.
Is it just Arya?
What do you call
Stark?
a girl with no name?
A girl has no name.
Damn.
So Danny and Rain, their relationship in the movie is one of the more heartfelt ones. It didn't feel pushed. It didn't feel like it was rushed. And the chemistry between the actors is great.
It felt organic.
It felt so organic. It looked like it was like they actually just came into the set and were like, oh, you two are gonna click really well. It was a great movie. There's some stuff that ties into some other movies, which we'll get into next week. But I'd say take the time to watch it, whether you download it or risk the theater. But it's worth the watch, and compared to some of the other movies we talked about in the Fox's X-Men universe, this is one of the top tier ones. It's really good because it doesn't feel like it's forcing a superhero story on you.
Exactly.
It feels like you're watching a story that happens to have superpowered people.
Exactly.
I love it. It did have some creepy parts.
Yeah, because not every X book is a superhero romp. When it comes to like the comic books themselves, you have different teams for different missions and different positions.
So we're here at the end of the show. Next week we'll jump into Deadpool 2 for our deep dive on that before we get into the spooky, ooky, kooky season that gets me harder than a candied apple. Gets me harder than candy corn 4 months after you forgot to eat it.
It's still the same consistency.
It's still the same. It's not great.
I'm wondering if fresh candy corn is even soft. Or is it just like form hard, like adamantium. Like, as soon as it cools, like there's no way.
It's just bad.
It's just bad.
Ross, thank you so much for being here this week. We love having you. I love working with you, man. You're a good dude.
Oh, nothing needed about guys. I'll see y'all on Friday.
Yes, you will.
Don't you mean to say he's one of the good muties?
Ooh.
Listen, I don't use that word. You'll be able to hear Roscoe again this Friday on
Yo, where the Captions at?
Well, it's a whole amazing show. If you haven't listened to it yet, then what are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
It's on the network, and you should be listening.
Some would say it's the most ridiculously random pop culture podcast in the 719.
Yeah.
And just for a fun fact, we talked about Danny previously on one of our episodes, aka the originals. She was the Hollow.
Oh shit,
she was a Hollow. And she played a native in that shit too.
Because she is actually indigenous.
I know.
It's fantastic, and I love the representation.
But also I'm not going to talk about
Roscoe, where can the people find you? Anything you want to plug superhero or X-Men wise or X-wise? Because how many X other things are there?
Or talk about your ex-wives in previous lives.
I don't want to, because that means my heart's going to be broken again.
So where can they find you?
Y'all can find me everywhere underneath Roscoe Tinkoya. That's all y'all need to know. Except for on PlayStation.
All right. Kelsey, where can the people find you and anything to plug?
Instagram, Kelsey Show, same as Snapchat. Of course, Facebook, Kelsey DeAndre Greer. What I like to plug is single-handedly the greatest X film that was created, and we wouldn't have got it in this way if it was not for the Deadpool movies showing Hollywood that you can make a rated R superhero movie and it can make money, and that would be Logan.
Oh
and
my
like
God.
I said many times before, if you get it on Blu-ray, if you already have it, you gotta watch the black and white version.
Yes, absolutely.
It puts
absolutely.
another layer of grit and depth into it, and also like the fucking scene at the end. Spoiler alert: he dies. If you haven't seen it by now, fuck y'all. What are you doing to life? And the fact I could remember to this day sitting in that theater thinking like, oh my fucking God, she's gonna pick up the cross and turn to the X. 15-20 seconds later, she picks up the fucking cross, puts it on the side, and it's an X. Cry. Tears galore.
And just to give y'all the heads up, I was next to him, so he said, she better not make this, you put that cross into an X. She makes it in, and all you hear him is, no, 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 no. Ah! And just started crying. He couldn't hold them bitches
because
back
it's a great fucking scene. The
and
whole
it was
movie's amazing.
And it was the finale of the whole X-verse.
Exactly.
Because he was like the last X-Men of that class.
And even when he's talking to her about the comic books, no, hold on, I can get it to look. Hold on.
Goddamn books, some shit ain't real. You dressing that bullshit.
And then you look at the movies and
your booty cheeks ain't out.
For me, you can find me online, Facebook, Daniel Rojas, Instagram, Blue Morpho, one word where the O's are zeros. As I say always, I don't really post on there as much. I'm trying to, but give me a reason. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, under Escaping Podcast. Make sure you let us know who your favorite X-Men is, what your favorite movie in the series was, and what you would have done differently in the comments. We love you guys, and today we're going to leave you with another Prefab Soul song. I was going to wait a while to do this one, but it's too damn good. And this is Determinate by Prefab Soul. Make sure you check it out. It's really good. And show some love to CJ and, let him know that you appreciate his music.
I'm going to have to ask that nigga if he watched Lemonade Mouth. If he didn't, I'm going to have to figure out where he got Determinate from.
We love y'all. We'll see you next week. And gear up because once we're done with these filler episodes, we will be getting into Halloween. We're going to keep ramping up our Halloween stuff year after year as long as y'all will have us. We love you. We can't wait to see you next time. And remember, there can only be one chum bucket.
And if you can't escape your current contract by being bought out by Disney, you can always become an escapee. Stay uncanny, y'all.